Hi, Clutter Fairy fans. This is the Clutter Fairy Weekly for September 2nd, 2025. I'm your co-host, Ed Gumnick, and I'm speaking with Gayle Goddard, a certified professional organizer and owner of the Clutter Fairy in Houston, Texas.
Hi, everybody. The Clutter Fairy Weekly is the webcast and podcast that digs deep into the clutter that piles up between you and the life that you want to be living. We explore the habits and behaviors that lead to clutter, and we suggest strategies to slow the accumulation, reduce the collection, and comfortably manage the stuff we decide to keep.
If you're new to our Zoom meeting, we want to let you know that you can share your comments and questions via the chat feature, and I'll try to make sure Gayle addresses them before we move on to another topic. You can also use the raised hand feature if you'd like to ask a question or make a comment yourself via audio or video. And we're streaming the webcast live on Facebook, so you can share your questions and comments there, and I'll relay them to Gayle. We're going to start by talking about last week's Weekly Tittle, which was called Reach Toward an Agreement. The assignment was to work toward an agreement to reduce the load of other people's clutter in your home. Let's hear from our participants in Zoom and on Facebook who made progress this week reducing clutter from other people. Please let us know in the comments. YouTube viewer A222Z posted a comment on last week's video in response to our audience member Jane, whose judgy neighbor has been a driving force in her project to get her garage in order. A222Z writes, "Funny and crazy about the opinionated neighbor. What nerve. However, I did keep my garage, yard, and car exceptionally pristine and clean because of the neighbors." She put "because of the neighbors" in
Yeah.
quotes. Even though no one would probably ever say anything, I didn't want my coworkers seeing a messy car or neighbors seeing an unkempt yard and garage. They were my motivators without my realizing it. Interesting how when one person gets out the lawnmower, one by one, most everyone else starts doing the same.
I have to say, as I'm listening to that, the first picture that comes to my head is my own car, because half the time it's full of other people's donations that
Right?
I'm trying to like I need to make a pass by somewhere, and so a couple of days, and every once in a while I go to somebody's house and I take away so much stuff in one sitting that the car goes from empty to full 100% in one appointment. And so I spend a lot of times driving through traffic thinking, I wonder what people think when they look in my car as I drive by, because the car is just full to the brim of stuff behind me. And I'm blissfully driving down the road, not paying attention to the chaos behind me. I do have to say, thank God it's behind me. Generally, humans are really social creatures. So we can be really affected by what people think about us or what we think people are thinking about us. In this case, the neighbor was very clear. The neighbor told her directly what she thought about it. So there wasn't any, wishy-washy or wondering about that. It's really kind of a lonely trip if we're surrounded by people who resist or belittle our efforts. And I did actually had an experience around this week too, because one of my clients was working on something and working on it also when I wasn't there, and then called their husband over to say, come and look at all the progress that we've made. And he came over apparently and said, yeah, but you still haven't done this part yet. And she was like, dude, you skipped straight to the criticizing and you skipped over being supportive of the work that I've done. And she pointed it out immediately to him. And I was super proud of her for doing that. It's like, when someone tells you to come over and look at the progress, you need to come over and pay attention to the progress and not
Yeah.
start bitching about what's not done yet. If you want somebody to keep working on it, you better be supportive. And
Yeah,
so,
man. You know, here you are serving up to him a softball. All he has to
come tell
do
me,
is just a little positive acknowledgement there, and
right? He
he totally
totally
whiffed it.
failed the assignment. He totally failed the assignment 100%. And you could tell the look on his face when she said no. That he was like, oh, yeah, I probably shouldn't have said that. You could tell he was like regretting it already as soon as he pointed it out to him. But it's like, I get it, we're not done yet, but we've just spent 3 hours or 5 hours or 2 days or whatever she'd been working on it. You need to be supporting it. And,
Yeah.
and he finally did, thank goodness.
Well, and sometimes you have to, you have to sort of frame the progress for the person who wasn't there watching you do all the work.
Yeah.
You have to say, okay, see, those three boxes, those are going out to recycling, and This here, what's in this file box here is now all organized stuff that was mixed in with the junk in those boxes. You know,
Right?
you have to
Yeah, yeah.
like
Lay it out.
make sure it's really clear to them.
Well, and I just do that when I leave clients appointments. I'm like, oh, look, we put two boxes away. We got two boxes clear. We made two trips to recycling bin. We threw away a bag of trash. Like I like rewrap and remind people you did this and this and this and this today. Like that's really great because we talk about it. You do the decluttering, it creates negative space, and you forget what was there. So
Right. Yeah.
she goes on, to say that they were my motivators without realizing it. And so it's a great idea that the view of it from someone else spurs you on to declutter, then go for it. But don't let it paralyze you or make you miserable. So you really want to not let those people and not let this neighbor in particular, not have too much power over who you are and what you're doing. And reach out for people that are going to be supportive about what you're doing instead. And that's a more important thing, to have the people around you that are supporting you. So, particularly if somebody who is negative is putting a lot of negative thought into your head around it, immediately try to counteract that with somebody who's supporting your efforts and telling you that you're doing a great job, because you are doing a great job. If you're working on it at all, you're doing better than a lot of people, and you're making progress, and that it's important to acknowledge that all along the way. And it worked for A to Z,
A
A22Z to say,
A222Z.
right? To say I didn't want my neighbors to see a mess. I didn't want my coworkers to see a messy car. Like I get it, and it worked for her and it motivated her. So if let it motivate you if it does. If it doesn't motivate you, then don't listen to that. Go find somebody who's supporting you around what you want to do.
Okay,
And thanks for sharing.
Jacqueline reports I decluttered some costume jewelry,
Oh,
brought
that's a good one.
brought some old medication to the drop box at the pharmacy,
Mm.
and repainted a garden bench that I've been meaning to fix up since last summer. I also
Whoop
did
whoop.
I also did some cleaning and tidying in the garage. There were a lot of things that had been used but not put away afterwards. I found quite a bit of trash and a few things to declutter.
Excellent. Wow, you were very productive, it sounds like. But I really like I finally dealt with the bench that I've been waiting for a year to do. Like that I always feel it's like, oh, thank God that thing is not yelling at me anymore. Like that is such a relief when you finally do the chore, do the fix, do the piece that you were imagining that you need to do, and then it's not there barking at you anymore. You were very productive. We're proud. Good job. And you don't have to do the whole garage. Like you didn't do the whole garage, but you put away the stuff that needed to be put away because it was easy, and you found recycling, and you found things to put in the trash, and you found things to donate, and that generally cleared up a lot of stuff in the garage, even if it's not exactly where the finished product that you want. You still made a big dent in making it better. And so good for you. We all apparently did that stuff over Labor Day.
Amanda says I started going through my toddler son's toys, putting
Ah.
duplicates and unloved items aside for donation, and packing loved but outgrown toys away for the second baby we are hoping for.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, the thing about little kids is everything about their life rapidly changes over time until a certain point. And so their clothes change, the toys they can play with change, the books they read change, everything that they do changes and is constantly shifting to be age appropriate, and so it's always on the move. And so it's really easy if you stay on top of it in real time. It's really easy to move the new stuff in and take the old stuff out because it's bounded by age appropriateness. It's like it has this built-in function of, the baby is not reading, little flip books anymore. The baby has moved on to a higher level of reading and understanding. And so those little flip books aren't necessary anymore. And they're not interesting to the baby anymore. So those things are constantly shifting as the baby grows up and develops more skills and gets more verbal and all those kinds of things that go by. And it lets you filter without even having to think about it hard. And it gets harder when they get older. As you well know with your own stuff, everything's age appropriate after a point, and then you lose that built-in, baked-in filter. But take advantage of it while you have it.
Okay, I have a brief tittle report too. I,
Okay.
I a few months ago, while digging through boxes of old paper, I found a coffee cake recipe from a woman that I worked with uh, in the 80s.
Oh my goodness.
She wrote out this coffee cake recipe for me, and I had given it up for lost. I had not seen this piece of paper in decades, and I found it a few months ago, and the other day it occurred to me, yeah, I don't know exactly where I put it. And so I got back into the semi-organized papers this weekend, and I found the coffee cake recipe, and
Again.
I transcribed it into the Paprika app. Thank you
Oh,
to
your recipe app.
yeah, thank you to whoever it was in our group that recommended paprika. I love it.
Oh, awesome.
And I made a coffee cake.
Oh, I
Yeah.
missed the coffee cake.
So
Oh,
yeah.
awesome. See, that's like you kept that recipe for 40 years so that you can make a coffee cake this week. I love it.
Okay, we should probably
Good for you.
get on to our main topic.
All right.
Do your efforts to declutter conflict with your calling to live a brilliant, original, and creative life? For artists, craftspeople, and hobbyists, the stuff in our homes can stimulate our imaginations. At the same time, it stands in the way of our freedom to create. Today, we're going to explore how our stuff can both inspire and stifle creativity and offer strategies for making space to do your best creative work.
Let me just throw in here first to say yes, I know this is really about, we're going to talk about crafting, but the principles and the issues that people raise here really applies to any kind of collection that you have that you're trying to manage and make use of in some way. And so maybe you're not a big crafter person, but maybe you collect books and read books and managing your book collection is a problem. Or maybe you're, fill in the blank, whatever that collection might be. Maybe you collect Star Wars trinkets and you have a hard time managing them and taking them to shows to trade with people or, whatever you do with them, right? So there is an element of this process that applies to any kind of collection, and we're just concentrating on crafting collections today. And we of course put out a survey around this, and everybody that was crafty came back and gave us great answers, so we're going to use you as the springboard again today.
Well, and Gail, not to disagree with you, but we
Oh, oh.
we we really did just say creativity. So it's
Yeah,
your, your filter that is going straight to crafts. And
yeah, any kind of
so but
creativity, it's true.
and so I tried to make sure people understood we want to hear from you, whatever creative thing you do,
Whatever creative outlet.
yeah. So
Absolutely.
our first survey question was, we asked our audience to describe ways in which clutter has interfered with your ability to carry out or enjoy creative projects and activities. And one of my favorite responses to this one came from uh, Johanna. I think it's Johanna. If I'm not mistaken, Johanna
Mm,
is German.
okay.
Um, my crafting table is covered in boxes and mail and everything but crafting supplies. When I do sit down to do a project, I feel guilty for crafting instead of decluttering, tidying, and cleaning.
Mm.
I cannot start or continue with a project because I cannot find an essential tool or materials I need. For example, the right knitting needle or the remaining balls of yarn that I bought for the project. I have so many supplies all over the place that I can't decide what to make out of them or what to use. I have bought many things that I already had in my stash but couldn't find them. All
Mm.
the aspirational clutter of materials I intended to but actually never used and probably won't in my lifetime makes me feel guilty for spending the money. I could continue this list forever.
Straight out of the gate. Johanna hit all the things. That was a perfect example of a dialogue in a lot of crafters, creative people's heads right now. I bet the chaos makes you feel guilty for crafting. You can't find the tools or supplies you need when you need them. You bought things twice because you can't find the ones you already have. This is a perfect list of ways that a chaotic room, creative room, gets in the way of having crafty fun. So, you're not alone. Let me just say that. And this is a theme that we heard all the way through.
Yeah. People said
Feeling guilty.
so many times, I feel bad, I feel guilty when I do this thing I enjoy, when there's so many things I don't enjoy, clamoring for my
That need
attention.
attention, right? Basically, and sometimes specified when I should be decluttering other things in my house. Like the decluttering project feels uh, puts a bunch of weight on your heads and makes you feel guilty and bad for having any kind of fun. And this is a theme that we saw over and over again. And I'm sorry to hear it. I'm sorry that that's, really weighing people down, because that's not a place that you want to be when you're trying to be creative, for sure. And, if you can't find something to do the craft, that's kind of a problem because it gets in the way of being able to do it. If you bought things twice, then you have double supplies you don't really need, and there's a problem there. But guilt is definitely something that we want to pay attention to and see if we can shift that around. So we're going to talk about that a lot today as we go along.
Okay, Noreen says, I feel like I should not enjoy crafting if I still need to declutter and organize the garage.
There you go.
I know I can do both, declutter a little and then enjoy crafting, but sometimes it bothers me to ignore my chores.
And I'm going to say to you, I think you should treat craft and the time to do your craft or your art or your creative endeavor, treat that pursuit as a reward for having done some decluttering. Um, because in the same way that we can't wait to be happy about the progress we made until we get the whole project done, because it takes forever. It takes a long time to unwind a lifetime's worth of clutter. And you can't wait to be excited about any progress until the very end, because then you're going to really struggle to keep focusing on it and keep going when you feel so, but there's so much else to do, but there's so much else to do. It's You have to be encouraging yourself all along the way for each of the gains that you make in terms of decluttering the house. And one of those rewards for the work done in the interim is I can go over here and entertain myself for a while. I've earned the time. I mean, it's no different than kids can play after their homework is done. Like you can play after you've done a certain amount of decluttering. Clearly, you can't wait to play until the whole project's done, because homework is was a nightly thing, um, and decluttering is going to be a year's work. So you can't wait for the year to have fun. You have to do a little bit of work, just like if somebody does homework at night, and then they get to pursue what they think is fun. And it's worth that effort. It's worth to recognize that effort and give yourself a reward for it. And I think waiting, feeling bad about any kind of fun in the interim when there's still ugly chores to do is not very encouraging for you to stay on the ugly chores. So I
Right.
think seeing it as a reward for, okay, I sucked it up and I adulted today and I did some work that I don't find particularly fun or entertaining or that makes me sad or crazy or whatever. And if you spend some time doing that, then you get to go and reward yourself with, soothing, with something that you find refreshing and rewarding. And I think totally worth it to trade it one on one.
Now, Naomi says, recrafting as a reward for cluttering, you have to take your reward immediately to make it be an effective motivator,
Ooh, fair
says
point.
says psychology.
Yes, yes, yes. I think that's a very fair point.
Immediately or as close as feasible so that your brain still makes that
Associates
connection.
it,
Yeah.
right? Like maybe
So,
you declutter a couple of times during the week and then you spend crafty time on the weekends or something. But give yourself a one-on-one. I work for 2 hours, I get to craft for 2 hours. Give yourself a trade-off that lets you go and do something, and absolutely do it with that in mind. Like, I'm doing this work today, I'm adulting today, I'm decluttering today, because Saturday I'm going to let myself have a good time. And then you can do it and be guilt free. And if you start to feel guilty, tell yourself to shut up. You earned it, you worked on it, you spent your appointments doing decluttering, and you earned the break. You're not crafting endlessly until the end of time. You're not decluttering for 2 hours and crafting for 27. You're going to do a little bit and then go have fun, and then do a little bit more and have some more fun, and it'll be okay.
JB says, I can so relate to this conversation about postponing life because of the clutter.
Yes.
It's like you're a prisoner of this daunting job that seems endless. When does real life start?
Yeah, you got to start working it in, baby. That is for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Because like I said, anybody that is coming to decluttering after a lifetime of not is going to have a big project and it's going to take a long time. And so you can't stop living while you're working on this project, or it just makes you grind to a halt, right? You just get more and more irritated by it, more and more depressed by it, more and more willing to stop because it annoys you so much. And that's why it's so important to be your own cheerleader and do it in an interim way, not at the end. Like, you got to be happy about the progress you made today, and you got to give yourself a little break in between. It's no different than, you can't run and run and run nonstop without taking a break in the middle. And so the process, the concept is the same here. You really have to do some work, do some relaxation, do some work, do some life, do some work, do some time with your friends, do some work. You gotta share. You
Yeah.
gotta give your life some balance here. And doing some of everything is important, and not saying that the only way that you can not feel guilty is if you spend 100% of your energy and time working on organizing the house. That's not a balanced life in any way. And so that's not the goal. The goal is not to take over your life and give it all away to organizing all the time until it's done. The idea is to work it in to be part of your work and part of your life, and to give some time to it and let you have the rest of your life the rest of the time.
Okay, Catherine says, overwhelmed by all the items and can't move forward. I can't cut fabric on my table since the cutting table is full of items. It's frustrating since I'm the reason it's a mess. When I do get it cleared off, it's not long till it's full again.
So as I read this, I thought, you need to figure out why your table is always full. You're using it as a storage space or parking space, and you're maybe stalling, putting stuff away when you bring new things in there. And that says to me either the storage that you have is too full, or it doesn't exist, or it's really inaccessible. So, an example I
Right.
have in my head is someone who has a sort of like, it's like a card catalog, it's like a file cabinet with lots of narrow drawers, and all of the drawers have different types of supplies in them. And the bottom two drawers were basically covered up because there was stuff on the floor in front of it.
Mm,
And so the things that were supposed to go in that drawer couldn't go in that drawer because the drawers couldn't be open. And so it meant that the pile at the floor got bigger with stuff that was supposed to go in the drawers that were blocked from being put in the drawers. And it became this big project to clear everything out in front of the drawers, and then finally put away all the stuff that was supposed to go in there. And then keeping that floor clean becomes the next maintenance task that's required to make that work. And so I'm speculating, as from your very short description, that either the places that you would put the things that end up on the table are can't accept anymore, they're over full, or you don't really have a place to park the stuff, or it's this, you have a storage space and there's capacity in it, but you can't get to it because there's stuff in the way. So one of those three things may be taking place, and figuring out what that is, and then trying to cure the problem, so that the things don't just back up onto the table permanently, is
right.
how you get past that.
Yeah. Or in cultivating a new habit. Uh,
Mm,
um,
putting it away right away.
yeah. Yeah.
Part of
Okay.
buying it is you have to come home and put it away in its spot.
Yeah. Okay. Kit says supplies too numerous and jumbled to be functional. No space to do the activity. Don't know what I have. And guilt about clutter means I avoid those items.
Hmm. So there's a perfect summary.
Right?
Unorganized supplies means there's no place to work. She wrote, supplies are too numerous and jumbles to be functional. And that sentence is the definition of how not organizing your craft supplies enough prevent you from being creatively
Sabotage. Yeah.
functional,
Sabotages your ability to function
to
creatively.
have a good time. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And the only fix is getting all those supplies organized so that you know where they are. Big
Okay.
project.
Uh, you want to say anything more about kits before I move on?
No, no, go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to add too, I saw guilt. The word guilt
Keeps
occurred
popping
so
up,
many
right?
times in the survey responses. And, the thing I personally wanted to say about that is, yeah, that is not a productive or useful emotion.
Right?
We've hardly ever talked to anybody for whom guilt is an effective motivator, that guilt makes them hop out of bed in the morning and enthusiastically embrace the work, you know?
Right.
Um,
It's so much judgment. It's so being guilty about it is so judgy of yourself, and it
yeah,
really is not helping you get there at all.
yeah. We talked last,
No.
last week was all about other people. Wait, were the last two?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we talked a lot about other people, but you also have to address that little tiny voice that is guilt or shame
Right.
or whatever negative emotion stops you in your tracks
Yeah.
related to your crafting,
You definitely don't need to help yourself feel bad.
right?
We all know that everybody feels uncomfortable on some level with their clutter. Um, unless you're a very specific kind of person, the clutter kind of becomes a problem, becomes an impetus to be upset. It becomes a trigger for other people in the house. There's all kinds of ways that clutter is a problem for people. And you don't need to add to that feeling guilty to the list. And so don't feel guilty about feeling guilty either. Don't go there.
Right,
but,
right, right.
but we need to recognize that I understand the motivation behind feeling guilty, but like you said, it's not helping you get anywhere. It's not helping you do anything. And so at least trying to ignore it or counteract it as much as you can is a better use of your time than indulging in feeling guilty about it because it's not helping you. And I know that you're here and you're thinking about decluttering and you're thinking about organizing because you feel like there's a project that needs to be addressed and that you're looking for advice and guidance about how to do it. And I'm just saying, feeling guilty about the project isn't helping you. So focus on other parts. Even if you keep the guilt, focus on other stuff instead.
Okay, this is let's take one more on this question and then move on. A different Catherine says, creative project ideas pile up faster than I can get to them, especially where subscriptions and or recommendations are involved. FOMO, fear of missing out, is a big issue.
Be careful with those subscriptions because just like magazines, they come again way before you finish the last one. And fear of missing out drives a lot of buying, but it creates a lot of backlog. So it's better to collect the idea of what you might be missing out on, collect that concept or uh,
The
project
intention,
instructions or the intention or whatever via
yeah.
photos or notes and do those write that stuff down or keep those photos without buying stuff until you're really ready to work on something. And by then the thrill may have worn off. And if not, you'll still find it enjoyable to do it, even if you do it a bunch later after you first heard of it. And it sometimes fear of missing out makes people buy stuff and then the secondary commentary starts rolling in about the people that have done it and they start finding out the things about it that aren't fun or that are hard or that are make the project not as entertaining as they thought. You start getting the negative feedback of the negative side of what that project is starts to roll in. The critiques start coming. And so maybe you can pause for the fear on missing out until you gather the full data. Wait and see what the people that are doing it end up saying after they've been doing it for a little while. And how many of those people stick with it and how many of those people are like, "Oh, I tried that and this is why I abandoned it." And so let's see what other people say before you run out and buy. And I'll tell you that, excuse me, vendors created subscription boxes in crafting in creative endeavors as a way to make money and sell to their clients over and over again. And the idea is if they treat it like a subscription, there's a beadie chick that puts out a bead box every month, and she basically curates a box of interesting things with a theme, and then she mails it out to the people that are in the subscription, which means that they get a new box of supplies every month. And how fun is that? Except that they haven't used the box of supplies from the last one that came. And so it may be an inspiration box, it may be a project, a defined project, whatever, a new started set of instructions and stuff, a new kit kind of environment. But if you haven't finished the last one, then here comes another one. It's just like all the newspapers that you haven't read yet. It's no different, right? So pay attention to, do you really craft as quickly as the subscriptions come? And if you don't, then maybe you don't need to be paying for that subscription. Just a thought. And recognizing that if you have a lot of ideas all the time, then making a list of those ideas can be a good first step so that you don't lose the idea, but you don't have to shop for the idea until you're ready to pick it up. And I think that's a better way to store the ideas until you can get around to it.
Yeah. And you might also I like your idea about, letting other people be
The testers,
the testers of
the
a
beta
new thing you've
testers.
heard about, because you might save yourself from buying
Mm,
a $200 piece of equipment that is going to be in your way for the rest of your life.
for you trying to find somebody else to give it to, right?
Right.
Like, oh my gosh, that is so true. And you in the flush of, here's the new thing, here's the new object. Oh my gosh, I want to try that. I want to try that. They count on that. Let me just say that the people that make the stuff count on that, and they count on selling a whole bunch of people all at once. And so that's how they make their money.
Right.
And you don't have to participate in that. You can just wait and see how it goes. And sometimes, we've all done that. We picked up a creative process and tried to do it and thought, oh my gosh, this is not for me. This is not my style. This does not entertain me. I do not enjoy this at all. And it doesn't matter that everybody else is loving it. If you don't love it, if it's not your thing, you don't need to have it. And so filtering things through whether you find this appealing or not, and if you're not sure, waiting to see what other people do and say about it so that you have a better, more rounded understanding of what you're getting into before you start, might help you avoid buying a bunch of stuff for something that you don't find entertaining
Okay,
after
let's go
all.
on. Uh,
Okay.
the second question we asked in our survey, we asked our viewers and listeners to describe ways in which the desire to declutter and organize your space has conflicted with or impaired your ability to carry out or enjoy creative projects and activities. So in other words, where do your decluttering and organizing efforts come into conflict with your creative outlets?
Mm.
Jane says, my creative juices are often spent on making areas more functional rather than more creative and fun.
Exactly. When you get the creative bug, you don't want to spend that energy cleaning up from the last project first. And a lot of people burn out their momentary inspiration trying to make a space to do the craft. And if they do it in a hurry, they just make the chaos worse. And so it does get in the way in terms of sort of launching a creative moment and then being able to do it, because the space that you're trying to do is a big mess and not functional for you. It really gets in the way.
Okay, C says, I distract myself by starting too many things.
Mm.
In the middle of a regular task, I will switch to a creative project and vice versa. Sometimes I switch between creative projects, leading to lots of UFOs.
UFOs, for those of you who are not deep in the creative world, UFO stands for unfinished objects. And everybody that does something crafty has an unfinished object laying around. They're the crafter stock and trade. And so many crafty people project switch. And the trick is to recognize that about yourself. Like, that you are going to keep a bunch of things going at once and plan for the storing of the 5 projects you have going at once. So find a container style that will hold most of your projects. And when you switch projects, stop to put the first one away in a project box. That keeps your space clear and usable as a workspace for the new project. and keeps you from losing track of the materials and supplies that go with the first project, which is so irritating. When you go back to a project that you haven't been on for a while and you can't find all the pieces, that's so annoying. Then when you switch to a third project, which you know you're going to do the same process of boxing up the discarded project and repeat. If you want, you can set a limit of project containers and use that as a backstop. So once you've filled the 5 project boxes you have, that means you have enough projects going and you have to step back to finish one and empty a project container before you can start something new. It's totally an artificial backstop, of course, but you can say, I only have storage for this many project boxes, therefore I can only keep 5 projects going. And surely 5 projects, 10 projects, whatever your, number is enough. And when you hit that barrier, stop and go. When you fill up your last designated project box, it's your signal to go back to, don't go looking for a brand new one. Go back into the old ones and try to finish
Yeah. See
one.
what's close to.
And I will say, if it's not a finished project, evaluate whether it was abandoned because of lack of interest. If you don't think you're ever going to finish this one, you started it and it didn't turn out to be what you thought, it wasn't as much fun as you thought, whatever. You don't like the colors, you don't like the how it's looking, whatever it feels like. If there's a way for you to look at it and go, I did this 10 projects ago and I haven't ever circled back to it. And when I look at it, it doesn't grab my attention. Maybe that means that I don't want to do it and I need to send it on to somebody else. And so then you can pack up the stuff for that specific project and make that a donation to one of your, creative friends, make it a donation to a school, wherever you think it could go. It can go half finished to somebody else that wants to finish it. Just keep that in mind. Uh, Setting those parameters for where, acknowledging that you project shift, first of all, setting project boxes up to contain them, and then setting a limit of project boxes to give you a place to stop and circle back and try to finish some to create an empty box is one way to deal with somebody that likes to project jump all the time.
Great comment from Naomi. She mentioned subscriptions, what we were talking about before, but it really
Mm,
also applies very much to what you're talking about now. The higher level of art and creativity is having good judgment about what to edit out.
mm.
Saying yes to everything and accepting the script subscriptions is holding back your creative success.
That's true. That's a really good point. I mean, it is part of the creative process in general to know what to add and subtract, right? And decide when it's too much or too little, depending on how you like the look. And so you can translate that to accepting and rejecting supplies as well. Good
Yeah.
point. Thank you.
You know, people whose art or craft is writing
Mm,
get get trained in this, I think, maybe a little more effectively than visual artists or other types of artists and craftspeople,
how so?
because it's understood that there will be a first draft, and the first
Oh.
and your and first drafts, as um Anne Lamott, well, I'm not going to use Anne Lamott's term because we don't want an um explicit
You
rating,
don't
but
want to bleep.
Anne Lamott says, you should expect your first drafts to be crappy. I'll use the word
Right.
crappy instead.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and for that may not come as easily to other types of creative people. It's hard to accept that, yeah, this particular piece I'm
This
knitting,
iteration.
this is a first draft. This is never going to be a good finished piece. I had to learn this skill. I had to practice this.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to leave it unfinished and write it off and move on to something better. So
Yeah, just think of it as training or experience or an experiment that didn't turn out how you wished. Like that's, I mean, it's the nature of creativity to experiment, right? Like we're, as creative people, much more fearless about trying stuff. And so, unlike others who are a little bit more constrained around that, a creative person is going to be like, yeah, yeah, let's try that and see what happens, right? So you do a lot of tries and some of them are fails, and that's okay. That's part of your process, part of you getting there. And so recognizing that something was a try and a fail is acceptable, or maybe it's just in creativity there's no wrong things, right? And so maybe it was just a try and fail for you. It's not a combination or a solution or iteration that works for you, and you can offer it to somebody else and see what they can do with it. Like maybe they can do something different or better with it. And so if it doesn't float your boat, if it doesn't resonate with your creative soul, then you can just declare it a miss for you and send it on to the next person. Don't have to keep
Okay.
it.
An anonymous respondent said, time spent decluttering other areas such as closets has taken away from organizing craft spaces. Maybe that's a distraction from really focusing on aggressively attacking my craft areas.
Craft spaces are a big project, no doubt, and it's a major declutter project all by itself. But don't second guess organizing other areas that are easier or less in volume. They all need organizing. So no time was wasted on that project. Like good for you that you've been working on it. And maybe you can break it down into pieces if you want to do something in between the other projects. So maybe this is like you're doing some decluttering that you find more easy, and then you go into the craft room and do a little portion of the craft room to get started, and then go back and work on something else that's easier. Like organizing task shifting is a way that I let my clients' brains rest. Like when I've been making them focus and organize in an area that makes that they have to make a lot of hard decisions or they have to think about it a lot. We work for a while and sometimes we stop and go and work on something else that's less stressful or less of a burden because it's easier and it lets their brains rest a little bit. So you can be going back and forth between the craft area is hard, the other areas to organize are less of a project for me. And so you're just think of it as your, task shifting to let your brain rest a little bit in between and doing organizing that large craft area that's really a big project is not going to get done in one sitting or one weekend. It's going to take a while. And so you can just do little sub projects of it all the time and eventually those will add up to a completed room.
All right, let's go on to question number 3 from our survey. We asked our audience to describe ways in which your efforts to declutter and organize your space have enhanced your ability to carry out or enjoy creative projects and activities. So this is where your decluttering and organizing is paying off for you creatively.
Mm-hmm.
Leela says, room to spread out supplies and create. Easy to find specific supplies, more relaxing environment in which to work.
And that is a perfect description. Like if you can find the supplies, you have room to do the work, and it feels more relaxing to be there while you do it, then you are definitely benefiting from
You're on the
decluttering
right
that
track.
organizing room. Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Good project.
Terry says, I'm making steady progress. I'm getting more familiar with the supplies I have and have most like things grouped together and labeled.
Mm-hmm.
I've identified many books to donate so that I have room to store the more organized supplies. I have filled a banker's box with supplies to donate or give away, supplies I've outgrown or my taste has changed. I've removed supplies that I don't think I'll ever use, giving me a clear view of the useful ones. As I limit supplies to what I'm actually likely to use and have my remaining supplies accessible, I'm more able to be more productive on my creative projects and get right down to work. I've spent years accumulating all these supplies, so it's taking some time to organize, but there's an upside to all that I've acquired. It's left me with some particularly nice materials. I'm really fortunate to have some amazing supplies to work with. The more I declutter, the more I see and appreciate these, and the more they are accessible for projects. So I'm making progress, but it requires ongoing effort to just maintain what order I've created.
Really love the effort here. And you're really moving towards an organized room. And also the realization, I love that you figured out that you need ongoing efforts to maintain it. Crafty space is no different than any other. Once the declutter project is over, you need to develop habits to maintain it as an organized space. It's never going to be one and done. So good on you that you're chipping away and having gone through all those steps in your process and that you're trying to maintain what you've already done. You're doing a great job. And that is the goal of a project like that. Get it to a place where you like it and then figure out how to maintain it. Good job.
Yeah, I'm still working on that maintenance piece
Everybody
because,
does.
well, and I guess I have to recognize that that needs to be part of what I reward myself with for the truly create, with the truly creative work time
Mm.
that, And in my case, it's, drawing and coloring and such
Yeah,
things.
the pencil materials.
And so the maintenance involved is I periodically need to figure out which things have dried up and then decide whether to
Mm,
replace them or discard them based
yeah,
on
what's
how
become
successful I've
useless.
been with them, you
Yeah,
know? And I'm not doing that, so I've kind of a lot of stuff that I don't really use.
time to
Um,
dive in.
Danetta says, I've decluttered enough to have a clean house, but behind closet drawers and inside storage solutions, I still have too much stuff and still don't feel I can spread out to work on my projects.
So it sounds like you've organized to level one, which is getting everything in a closet or storage solution. And I think of that as the first peel of the onion. You got the stuff back from your house's beyond capacity to capacity. And now you need to go on level two or level three, or you got to peel the next layer of the onion. So if you don't feel like you have enough space yet and you still feel like you have too much stuff, you just need to start the next round and peel another layer of stuff off so that the storage units don't feel as jammed up and the closets don't feel as jammed up, and you start creating empty space because you want empty space to spread out to work on your projects. And so you need to create that space of empty for yourself. And the way to do that is to keep decluttering the house down to a level that allows you this breathing room for creativity that isn't currently baked into the house.
Let's see. We are running out of time fast. M says, I have a big bureau in the living room, two drawers of which both are dedicated to supplies for a single craft.
Okay.
The drawer for the craft that can be carried away for lap work works better than the one that requires setting up a table or working on the floor. So I think I will change the second one to another lap craft. It's nice to have all of the supplies in one drawer ready to go, or ready to use.
Yeah. That's some good planning, and it's making crafts accessible to move around. The idea that you would be able to take things out of the drawer and then carry them and to go sit on your lap somewhere to work, that would be awesome. So it sounds like a better use of the drawers of the bureau, and the things that require being on the floor or set up at a table. You're gonna have to pull out a table or get on the floor anyway. So having those things in a separate storage that you then bring out at the same time when you're ready to do that craft, um, I think is a better plan. Good planning there.
Okay, one more on this question. I really like this response.
Yeah.
Christina B says, I want to do things that help me relax and feel creative. Life is too short to not do things that make you happy, and it has really influenced my desire to keep going with organization and decluttering the things that get in the way.
That's really great inspiration for others with this one. Great description there, Christina. Thank you. Life is too short, and getting your crafts up organized and maintainable is a good goal to make sure that crafting is an active part of your life that brings you reward and relief and entertainment and relaxation, all those things that you were asking about. The whole point of being creativity, experiencing creativity, is because we get joy out of it. We have fun with it. We experience community with it. We feel relaxed while we're doing it. It's a way that we nurture ourselves and enjoy ourselves and have fun in our lives. And it's important to make that be possible. And so it's a good motivator, right? You want to be able to do those things that help you relax and feel creative. That's what Christina quoted. And I think it's a good goal for all of us. We want to be able to do those things, and getting the inspiration from that to go and organize the craft area and make it function better. It's a good connection to make. Thank you for sharing that.
All right, one more survey question. We asked our viewers and listeners to describe the key features of your ideal creative workspace.
So everybody had great answers. So I'm just going to read everybody's choices. I'm sure you are all going to relate to this. So Lynn says all materials are neatly organized and easily visible. Enough clear workspace to eliminate the shuffle. The ability to close the door when I want to ignore any mid-project's mess. That sounds like a perfect studio. Rose says pretty colorful items are all easy to see, contain, label, and put back after every use. Leela says bright lighting, easy to get the supplies that are well organized, a large dust-free area to work, like that idea. Linda says everything organized but easily seen so I can visualize and pull what I need on my project quickly. That's super important to somebody who's in a creative streak in a moment where you're designing in your head. You need to be able to see the stuff that you need quickly to pull it. Kate says, I would like to get back to drawing and would only need pencils and paper. I want to make space in the desk drawer so that any work in progress is neatly put away. I think that's a great goal.
I think
Good.
for Kate, Kate's going to have her own tittle, which is, okay, do that this week.
Right? Go make that
Make
space for
space in the
yourself.
desk drawer. That is your assignment for this week, Kate.
Right? And your path to success is a very small one, so you can make it happen. Catherine says everything has a place and it's easy to put away. I have items that are functional and fun. I focus on one project at a time. Okay. Not all creative people can do that, but if you can focus on one at a time, I would do it. I'm that kind of a person too, where I'm like, if I've started a project, then it kind of barks at me until I finish it. And so it's better for me to go and finish it so that it's not bothering me in my head. Kit says projects are portable so they can be easily stashed away when I'm not working on them. Clear surfaces, good lighting, and a comfortable chair. Everybody needs a comfortable chair to craft in. That is for sure. Amanda says items are easy for me to find, but out of sight for my toddler and guests. That's an important distinction. You definitely don't want your toddler walking all up in your craftiness, right? So better to figure out a way for you to be able to find it, but not your kid. Materials are safe from dust, humidity, and pests. That's very important as well. Many a collection of crafty supplies have been ruined by being stashed in the garage and invaded by pests. So that's or put in the attic and invaded by heat or pests. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. Terry says, have a space dedicated to my crafting. I never had that in the past, and I'm lucky to have it now in my current house. It's not perfect, but it's mine and it works for me. All materials are neatly organized, all like items together, containers labeled, and are easily visible. Items I've outgrown are set aside for donations. Only my current projects are on my work table. Any instructions, books, videos, etc. are easily accessible. My tools are at hand, but not on my work table and in the way, not on the work table in the way. She says, I have a rolling cart with my most frequently used tools. So you're an example from my crafting space video. Good job. You're talking about, the books and videos are accessible elsewhere. The tools are in their own space, but they're not in the workspace. You did a good job of that.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there because I'd like
Okay.
to share just one or two comments
Yeah.
before we wrap up. This hour has gone so fast.
Right.
Um, let's see. I wanted to find Deborah had a comment here that I wanted to share.
Deborah.
Hold on one moment. Got to scroll just a little. I have a lot of guilt over not being perfect.
Oh,
Then that emotion freezes me. I have a handwritten
oh.
sign that says motivation follows action in my bathroom to remind me to just start. I also have a note that it doesn't have to be a special occasion, meaning that I can do good things for myself, creative things, self-care, without waiting for a perfect time.
Oh. So you're giving yourself very great advice. Let me say that. And we did see that was another theme that we saw in our results as well. A lot of people talking about perfectionism. So they don't start the decluttering because they feel like it has to get perfect. And then once they make it perfect, then they don't feel like they can craft because it will make it not be perfect. So
Right.
there's a lot of a blockage that comes from trying to be perfect or not being willing to move until it's perfect. And you know how infrequently that moment comes to pass. So I'm just going to take the reminder to say, um, good for you for giving yourself some motivation to remind yourself what you need to do. And being perfect is not fun. And so you want to be having fun. And so schedule some of that in.
Naomi added, you could you, and you could have some signs about good enough is good enough. And JB gave us an initialism to try out. CCIA, consistent, committed, imperfect action.
Oh, I like it. That's awesome. With the reminder that it's imperfect, it doesn't matter. Because really what makes the achievement happen is consistency, consistently being in action. And so even if it's not perfect, being in motion gets it going. And actually, after you get a bunch of work done, you can get it closer to perfect than than not, and certainly closer than it is right now. So say it again, CCIA, consistently.
Consistent, committed, imperfect
There we
action.
go. Consistent, committed, imperfect action. Love that. Thank you for sharing that. That's really good.
Okay. Before we go, I want to say a special thank you to Amy B for becoming our newest Patreon supporter.
Thank you, Amy. Thank
If
you so
you
much.
if you would like to help support our efforts with a recurring monthly donation, please visit cfhou.com/Patreon. Your contributions help us offset the costs of producing the weekly webcast and other projects. Thank you for your support, Amy B, and all our generous underwriters.
We appreciate you guys helping us, float the cost of doing this. Thank you so much.
We will be back next week, Tuesday, September 9th at the usual time. We're going to talk about gifts, the unique problems of items that we received as gifts, how to re-gift with a clean conscience, and making space to receive new gifts as we enter the gift-giving season of the year.
The season is right around the corner. Stuff is coming your way. So let's talk about how you make space for it and how you receive stuff and release it if you don't love it. Let's talk about that too. Okay, that's
All right,
next week.
Gayle, why don't you give us the tittle?
This week's title is called Strive for Balance. This week's assignment is to seek balance between making progress on decluttering and organizing efforts and making sure your creative spirit is well fed. Make an appointment this week to spend at least half an hour decluttering or organizing materials, tools, and supplies related to one of your creative outlets, such as an art form, craft, or hobby. If you don't practice any of those, work on stuff related to any recreational part of your life, like books, music, cooking, DVDs, games, gardening, whatever it is that you do for fun. Keep the appointment. When you finished the appointment, jot a few notes about what you were able to accomplish. Keep track of your results. Next, schedule an appointment to spend the same amount of time playing in the creative or recreational area that you worked on organizing. So keep that second appointment. And if you feel any guilt or pangs of conscience about playing while there's still so much work to be done in your home, refer back to the notes that you wrote at the end of the first appointment. I spent half an hour and I accomplished this and this and this. Therefore, I don't have to feel guilty for spending that half an hour over here having fun. You can make it be an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours, whatever you do. You make an appointment to declutter and give yourself an equal amount of time to be fun. And then reflect on whether your work session affect your ability to relax and be creative. And also think about whether your playful fun affected your feelings or attitude about working on the decluttering. So we're hoping that switching back and forth and noticing how you feel, noticing, making a list of what you got done, and then going and being creative for that equal amount of time and going back creates a feedback loop. Like, I got a whole bunch of stuff done and now I'm going to go have this much fun, and I had so much fun and now I'm willing to go back and work on the decluttering. We're hoping that it's a more positive reinforcement than I feel guilty and it's not perfect and I'm overwhelmed. Those are emotions that are designed to stop you from moving, and we're trying to foster you thinking about, I got something done, I got to have fun, I got something done, I got to have fun, and you can switch back and forth with that instead. So go work on it, see what you have, see how it happens, and come back and tell us about it next week.
If you're watching this on YouTube, we would love for you to join us live. To get notifications about upcoming events, we invite you to join the meetup group by visiting cfhou.com/meetup.
Meet up.
You can also follow us on Facebook by visiting cfhou.com/Facebook, or join our mailing list by visiting cfhou.com/subscribe. We love to hear from our audience, so please keep your questions, comments, and topic suggestions coming in on YouTube, Facebook, or anywhere that you find us. You can always reach us through our website at clutterfairyhouston.com.
Thank you for joining us today to talk about crafty things. I love talking about that. One of my favorite things. My favorite project is to work on somebody's crafty room and make it all better. And the most recent project that I did was actually earlier in the summer. I went to Dallas and worked with somebody on their bead room. And so I spent 3 full days, like 7 or 8 hours a day for 3 full days, resetting a craft room, a beady room. And she had done a bunch of preliminary sorting work. So she had sorted through and sorted all the materials, opened up all the bags, the chaos. So she did a preliminary sort before I showed up. So I don't know how many hours she put into that. And then we took those sorted things and put them away and organized them on in shelves and boxes and containers, whatever. And that took, I spent at least 25 hours on that with her. So that's 50 hours with us combined. And she put a bunch of hours in before, and she did not have as big a stash as many people that I know. So I'm just saying, I recognize that if you are into craftiness and you've been hanging on to it, it's a big project and it's going to take a lot of hours, and it's way more than you can handle in a weekend. So recognizing, just like other projects in your house, this is going to be ongoing one. Work on it, chip away at it. Eventually you'll catch up to yourself. And if you want to stop and put a big chunk of time in all at once on a weekend or something to make some progress, great. Yeah, 50 hours is just me, getting started. And when we got to the end, I hadn't been able to do the kits. We hadn't been, there was a couple of areas, magazines, we hadn't been to organize magazines. She had sorted them into like piles, but we hadn't been able to work on their storage because we put all the time into the other beads. And so, yeah, there was still more to do when I left. And, that's the deal. So, okay. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us. And we will see you guys next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.